Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast for a thriving business and life. And we are live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And you can hear the podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, and many more. And today we continue with the reset, refocus, and thrive series. And we're going to be talking today about trusting yourself and making better decisions. And are you ready to live an inspired and empowered life? So I'm your host, Nancy Deutsch, licensed clinical social worker, certified hypnotherapist, and intuitive breakthrough expert. I combine my counseling, coaching, and intuitive abilities to transform your life. This show is only for educational purposes. It's not a replacement for therapy or counseling. So today we're going to be talking about how you can recognize why you second guess yourself, how fear and past experiences and your inner critic can influence your choices, how to differentiate between fear and intuition, and how to help yourself decide with better confidence using a practical framework. So why is it so hard to trust yourself? Let's talk a little bit. Let's recap the journey. So the first episode, we talked about resetting, letting go of what's holding you back. And in episode 2, we talked about refocusing, getting clear on what really matters. Episode 3 is confidence, building confidence from the inside out. Episode 4, resilience, developing the ability to navigate challenges and uncertainty. And as I said, today is really about self-trust. It's learning to make those decisions and to trust yourself in the process. And let's talk decisions. Do you realize, and I remember looking up this stat, we make about 64,000 decisions a day. We do it every day. So some decisions you're making are small, like what should you do today? Should you make a call? Should you say yes or no? And then there are other decisions that are bigger, that will change the direction of your life. Like, should you leave this job? Do you start this business? Do you end this relationship? Do you take this opportunity? Or is it time for your next chapter? And the challenge is that you don't always know what to do. You don't always know what you want. But I want you to know that you really do know. There is a place inside of you that knows your truth, or the truth that I call for your highest and greatest good. And when I'm making a decision, I'm always looking at that as part of my choice. what decision is going to be for my highest and greatest good. And we're going to be talking more about that as well. And the challenge is usually, can you trust yourself enough to listen to yourself? And very often you may start asking, what if I'm wrong? What if I regret it? What will other people think? What if I fail? What if I make the wrong choice? And then you may ask 5 different people. You go to Google, you do research, you make the pros and cons list, and you may finally feel like you're exhausted, because that is exhausting. And really, this is about, and then you end up questioning the decision you just made. So this is about learning that it's not about making a perfect decision every time. It's about developing enough trust in yourself to listen to yourself, to evaluate what's true for you, not what somebody else thinks, not what somebody else says is true for you or what should be true for you, but what's true for you. And how to recognize fear from your intuition and learning to access your intuition. And then it's learning to make that empowered choice. And then trusting yourself to handle what happens next. And that's also part of what we were talking about last week with resilience. And so the goal isn't certainty. The goal is self-trust, because ultimately that's what's the most important thing that you can give yourself, is learning to trust yourself, having that self-trust. And so we have some questions and comments coming in. Anastasia says, that sure is a lot of decisions. Yes, it is a lot of decisions. And believe it or not, like, we're making those decisions. Every single one of us are making those decisions every day. And so it's learning to start tapping in and like, what feels right? What feels good? Tuning into you. But we're going to talk more about that shortly. And then Nikki asks, why do we question so much after we do things? Because, Nikki, we've learned to question ourselves. That's part of that, not trusting ourselves and second guessing. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've worked with clients, worked with people, and they will make a decision. They can feel the decision in their body, and then they go into their head and they say, oh, what if, or no, I can't trust that. And so it's the second guessing, and then it's having that feeling that you know what you need to do, but then you start questioning, you doubt yourself, and you actually come out of your intuition and the truth of what you're really going through and what you really need and what you really want. Misty says, it's the aftermath of the decisions made. So I think what you're saying, Misty, and you can correct me if I'm not correct, if I'm wrong, that you make a decision and then you're, okay, can you trust yourself to handle what comes next, what comes after that decision? And sometimes those decisions are going to be hard, because it doesn't mean that there's not going to be fear involved, but it means, because sometimes it's going to be a challenging thing, like, you need to have that conversation, or that you need to make this decision, or that this is the right action for you, but you're not liking it. And sometimes it's really hard to keep going forward with that, and it's common to question yourself and then question, can you handle the aftermath of what comes next? And so we're going to talk more about that. Okay. And hopefully this show will help you be able to move forward and maybe not question yourself quite as much. And what I also want to invite all of you to do is that, again, this is not about being perfect. This is about being in the journey. This is about, even if it's a baby step towards more trusting yourself, a baby step towards trusting that and having the confidence in yourself that you can handle whatever comes. And it's a process, it's a journey. And the more you prove to yourself, the more you show yourself that you can handle it, that you can face the fire, so to speak, that you can move forward, or that you can navigate whatever's going on. That's the resilience part. It builds that self-trust. We're going to be talking more about that as well. So where does second guessing yourself come from? So Mickey, hopefully this will help you to answer more of what you were asking before. So you weren't born questioning every decision you make. But what happens is your experiences teach you not to trust yourselves. And usually it's in childhood. It's part of the learning experiences that you had growing up. And sometimes it could be that you made a decision that it didn't work out, and that could be in adulthood or childhood. Or and I'm going to tell you, but very often this does start with yourself as a child or a teenager. And or you were criticized for a choice you made, or you were told you don't know what you're talking about. Can you hear your caretakers or parents saying that? Or even school, like your teachers or someone saying that to you. Or maybe you grew up with people who ended up making decisions for you. Then you never learned how to make decisions for yourself. You learned not to trust yourself. Or maybe you learned that pleasing others was safer than listening to yourself. And maybe when you made a decision, you experience rejection or even failure. And what happens is those experiences start creating beliefs, and they create beliefs around, you start thinking, I can't trust myself to make a decision, or I make bad decisions, or other people know better than I do. I can't trust myself. Or I need someone else's approval in order to make this decision. I have to know exactly what's going to happen before I decide. And that can be part of what happens. And then maybe, okay, and we have Misty that says true. Okay, so I was on the right track. Thank you, Misty. And Mickey says, perfect is not a thing. And you are correct, Mickey. It is not a thing. It doesn't exist in human beings. So I'm going to support all of you to really remind yourself. Like if you start noticing that you're delaying a decision, and this is about that awareness piece, it's becoming aware that maybe you're delaying something because you're waiting to be perfect. And what happens with perfectionism, it can make decision making incredibly difficult. And let's say you believe that there's only one perfect choice. then every decision becomes high stakes. Now, when I say for your highest and greatest good, know that there's opportunities, there's possibilities. Now, some may be for your highest good. You may take the left road, and that could be for your highest good. And the right road could also be for your highest good. There could be learning opportunities in each road and each decision. But if you believe that you have to make the right decision, the perfect decision, that's going to set you up to probably not make a decision, indecision. And what I will tell you is what not making a decision is a decision. And you may not be doing it consciously, but you are doing it. And and you may be trying to search for certainty, but certainty doesn't exist. And so I want to support you in asking yourself, what's the best decision you can make with what you know right now? What's the best decision you can make with what you know right now? And let's say you're asking yourself, how can I guarantee I won't make a mistake? You're not going to be able to. You can't. But what I want to remind you, and that's what I just said before, is each decision will be a learning opportunity. You're going to learn something from it. And the most important thing that you can do is taking the gems. What's the learning gems from each decision you make? What are the learning gems? And then there's the fear of regret. You may have a fear of regret. Like if you're second guessing yourself, you may want to avoid regret. But avoiding decisions doesn't eliminate regret. And sometimes the greatest opportunities will come from, or the biggest regrets that you have could be from opportunities you didn't take, or conversations you didn't have, boundaries you didn't set, dreams you didn't pursue. And what I also want to remind you is overthinking can look responsible. And if you're telling yourself, I just need to be careful. I need to think about it a little longer. But then you keep saying a little bit longer, a little bit longer, a little bit longer. And then it never comes to decide unless something's happening right there. Or I just need more information, and I need more information, and I need more information. So what ends up happening is that it's a way that you may be avoiding discomfort of deciding because of those other fears that are happening for you. And what happens is overthinking creates noise. So what I want to support you is asking yourself, do you actually need more information? Or are you really afraid to trust the information that you already have? I'm going to say that again because this is an important distinction. Do you actually need more information? Or are you really afraid to trust the information you already have? And then we have the inner critic. The inner critic. All right. All of you, I mean, many of you, I'm not going to say all of you, but many of you may be dealing with an inner critic inside, and how that inner critic will affect your decision making. So, the inner critic is the voice that says, who do you think you are? You're going to mess this up. You're not ready. You're not qualified. Everyone else knows better than you or knows more than you. And it may sound like truth because you may have heard it growing up, but the inner critic isn't, and I'm going to repeat one more time, is not telling you the truth. Your inner critic is coming from your ego part that's trying to maybe protect you or keep you from, it's serving some kind of purpose, but it's not supporting you. And it's really important for you to really ask and start challenging the inner critic, or even trying to understand, what is the inner critic doing for you? How is it serving you? And I also want to support you in knowing is that protection can look like limitation. And what happens is your mind wants to protect you. It wants to protect you from failure or embarrassment or rejection or judgment or disappointment. And it protects you to stay with maybe what's familiar. But familiar doesn't mean healthy, and it doesn't mean right. It's just simply what you already know, which feels safer. It's what you already know. And feeling safer is maybe running the show for you, is maybe running you the patterns that are going on. And also know that your inner critic can become louder when you're growing. When you're stretching and trying to do new things and explore new possibilities, sometimes your self-doubt will increase and it will get louder and louder. But it doesn't mean you're moving in the wrong direction. It means, and again, it could mean, okay? Again, you have to feel into what feels right for you, what feels true. And very often it could be that you're really moving beyond what's familiar, so that self-doubt starts screaming in your ear. So let's say you're trying to decide. Let's say you want to speak publicly or apply for a promotion or ask for a raise or maybe start your business. Maybe it's raising your rates in your business. Maybe it's setting a boundary, trying something totally new that you haven't done before. And then all of a sudden the fears come up. The critic starts screaming because that fear is, what if I can't do it? What if I can't do it? And it doesn't mean that you can. It means the fear is coming up. So what do you do? How can you quiet that inner critic? Now, when I say challenge, I don't mean fight with it. What I mean is you can become curious about it. You can ask what purpose it's serving you. You can say, you know, I am making a different choice. And ask yourself, what is really this voice? What is the fear this voice is afraid will happen? Because that's understanding what's really going on underneath. And is the fear based on something that's happening now or something from your past? And very often when there's a lot of fear, it could be something from your past. And then you may want to say, is this really a fact? Facts are different than fears. So it's really important to ask yourself, is this a fact? Really true, objective, or is this a fear? And what would you believe if fear wasn't making the decision? What would you believe if fear wasn't making the decision? And so let's talk about the fear versus intuition. Okay, fear versus intuition. So one of the biggest questions that I get all the time about intuition is it my fear or is it my intuition? And both can influence you, but they communicate differently. So let's talk about fear. Fear is often loud. When you are in the fear, you feel this urgency, like, oh my God, I got to do this. Or maybe you catastrophize that the worst thing is going to happen to you. Or you focus on everything that could go wrong. Maybe you're repeating, and I can't even begin to tell you how many clients I have create the endless what if. What if this happens? What if this? What if this? What if this? Going down the what if rabbit hole. And so the thoughts that fear creates is, don't do it. Something terrible is going to happen. You're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to fail. Everyone is going to judge you. And fear usually wants an immediate answer because uncertainty feels more uncomfortable, sitting in the uncertainty. Now, intuition is quieter. And intuition comes in different ways. And so it's really about learning how your intuition is speaking, is communicating with you. And this is really important for you to learn. Your intuition can come as a knowing, or maybe it's a feeling. Like it's listening to the gut underneath the fear, because you may feel the fear in your gut, but underneath the fear is that knowing or feeling or sensing in your gut. Now, it may be a no, but it may be a yes. That's learning to listen. This is important. It's learning to listen to yourself, learning. And it may be, maybe you get an image in your mind's eye, or maybe a thought will come to you, or a physical sensation. I know sometimes I'll be with clients or I'll be doing something and all of a sudden we'll be talking or I'll be saying, and I'll get the like, I can feel this energy going down my back, Like I just, and that's my sign that pay attention, pay attention. Or maybe, and what I also want you to know is that your intuition won't give you the entire plan, because you will get overwhelmed with the entire plan. It gives you step by step directions. What's the next step? And that's what something that you can ask. What's the next step? And sometimes you may not always know why it may feel right. You just know that it does. And you have a sense. You have a sense to call someone, to call that person, or to go to an event, or don't say yes yet, or it's time, or wait, or try this. And I also want you to know intuition doesn't always mean it's going to be comfortable. And because you may have fear, and I said this earlier, you may have fear about having that conversation or starting that business or moving forward with this plan, and there's fear, but you know, intuitively, you know it's the right decision for you. And it may guide you towards something that scares you. So it doesn't mean that it's something that you need to avoid. It could be because it's unfamiliar. And you know, there's still a place where you know that you need to have that conversation, or you need to take the next step in creating your business or creating that project or moving forward in that project or pursuing an opportunity where there may be fear or fear of failure, but you know, you can feel, you sense that that is something you need to pursue. And so what I really want to remind you is that it doesn't mean your intuition is saying no if you're feeling fear. It means that you may need to work through the fear. You may need to have courage to say, to go through it. There was a book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Susan Jeffers, I think, is the author of that book. So it may mean you need to feel the fear and do it anyway. And you can ask yourself, what lies beneath the fear? What lies beneath the fear? And you can ask, if I knew I could handle the outcome, what would I choose? What would I choose? And I also want to make a distinction that intuition is different than very impulsive behavior. So an impulse now, and this is a very fine distinction, because there are some times where your intuition is guiding you and you can feel that impulse to make that call or to take that next step. But what you need to look at or assess for yourself is that it may also come from emotional reactivity or wanting that immediate relief. Or maybe the impulse is coming from anger. You definitely don't want to be acting on that. Or maybe it's coming from excitement, but then you're so impulsive in the behavior, then you may regret it. Anxiety. The impulse may be coming from anxiety. So what I really want to support all of you in doing is, before you make a decision, it's really important to calm yourself down, to be quieter, be still, and allow yourself to really be able to calm yourself down so that you can then ask yourself, what do I know? What feels aligned? And what is my intuition telling me? Am I feeling it, sensing it, knowing it, seeing it, however it comes? And so, what I want to remind you is fear asks, what could go wrong? And wisdom, intuition says, what feels true. And so, your inner wisdom is allowing yourself to be guided by your intuition. That deep place of wisdom comes from that deep place of listening and communing and being able to connect with that deep sense of you knowing. And so when you have these strong decisions, you want to notice the fear. You want to listen. Well, you want to notice the fear. Then you want to evaluate the facts. Now, I'm not saying never do research, because you may need to do research. But what it means is you're not going to over-research. You're not going to keep asking every single person you know for the answer you think that you need, because that will create more confusion and overwhelm. It's about honing it in, looking at maybe one person, maybe two, that you know will be supportive of you. And ultimately, no matter what those other people say, it's about listening to you and listening to what you're thinking or feeling or knowing or hearing or seeing in your mind's eye. And it's also really important to stop giving everybody else that vote, that noise, because that, like I said, it's going to create more confusion. And so it's important that you really work on quieting, breathing, listening to you. Listening to you. So, and what I want you when you're asking people, and remember, you don't want to be asking a lot of people. Ask yourself, is this person giving you information, or are they trying to make the decision for you? They're giving you advice like, you should do this. No. You may choose to do that, but it has to come from within you, not from what they're saying. And ask yourself, does this person have experience that's relevant to the decision you're making? Now, if it's a person that, let's say you're making a financial decision and they're in finances or accounting or something like that, their weight will count more than somebody who's in a creative field or something totally different than the decision you're trying to make. Or you're trying to make a decision about a career or starting your business or whatever it is, and they have knowledge because they've been there, they're a mentor, or they have information, then that could hold more weight. But again, don't give your power away. Ultimately, it's about going back within you to see, does this feel true to me? And the other thing you want to ask yourself is, does their advice align with your values? Because if it's out of alignment, then it's not the right decision for you. You need to be in honoring your values and what feels true and real and right for you. What's integrity for you? That's important. And so I would want to support you in asking yourself, what do you think before you ask anyone else? Try to see if you can get at what's really underneath for you. And you can ask yourself, what are you thinking? Is there anything you're not considering? And so it's really important. You can gather information, you can listen to people you trust that are trustworthy, but ultimately do not abandon yourself in the process. Do not give up what you feel or believe or know to be true because this person said it. So that's really important for you. So we are I'm going to give you, I want to continue this next week. We're going to continue because there's a few other pieces that I really want to give you, and I don't want to rush them. These are really important, and I'm going to tie it into what we're talking about next week. So this is about, and what I want to remind you is that your confidence grows every time you trust yourself. Every time you make that decision, every time you take that small step, every time you allow yourself to start feeling or believing in you and what you're doing and what you feel and know counts. So it's really about learning how to tune in, recognize where the fear is, being able to understand those options, sense what's aligned for you, and trust yourself enough to take the next step. And so next week, we're going to be talking about creating a mindset that helps you thrive. And so I'm going to weave in what we didn't cover today because there was a lot of important information today. So we'll cover that next week in episode 6, create a mindset that helps you thrive. So you'll learn more about the difference between a survival mindset and a thriving mindset, and how your limiting beliefs can keep you playing small. And so we're going to be talking about more about your pattern, your thinking patterns, and how that can block you or move you forward. So that's next week. And there's much more next week on Reset, Refocus, and Thrive. So tune in next week at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, my YouTube channel, and you can hear the podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, Amazon, and many more. And I also want you to know that there is a self-assessment that you can take that will help you to really help you more to understand your strengths and where you may be doubting yourself or where the weaknesses are. And so if you go to inspiredandempoweredliving.com / so it's the name of the show, inspiredandempoweredliving.com, then the / full potential, one word, dash ebook. So inspiredandempoweredliving.com / full potential dash ebook. You will get a self-assessment that can really help you tune in to that potential that you have within. And I look forward to connecting with you more next week. And I'm wishing you all an inspired and empowered day, night, and week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye for now.